It was the month of February. When I graduated from the academy, I was ready to take the exam to become a government official. However, her father said sternly, "It's time you paid your family back for raising you." She realized the truth. She said, "The reality was, my family was planning to sell me off as a concubine to the king of Movia. Our family has continued to serve as knights to the Count of Halogen. Simply put, our family's title isn't hereditary. There are only two ways for families like ours to maintain our status. We must either distinguish ourselves in battle, or gain the favor of the noble family we serve. My father chose the latter. He groveled just to maintain his knighthood. I couldn't stand my father. He was accumulating debts trying to win favor with those in high society. Father was against my becoming a knight. So I found a way to enter the academy on my own. I won a scholarship and worked part-time jobs to pay for room and board. During that time, my family continued to spend money they didn't have. Their debts kept snowballing. And in the end, they decided to sell me to a harem to pay off their debts. Later, she went to the employment agency. While waiting for her interview, she thought, "I'd like nothing more than to pay back my family for raising me. But I have no idea where I can get the money." She sighed. "Today looks like a failure too." She suddenly noticed a man and wondered, "Is he a hunter?" A worker at the agency called out. Worker said, "Sisha, there seems to be a job for you." She replied in surprise. Sisha said, "Really? Could it be?" The worker added, "You can go straight up to the manager's office." When she entered the office, she kept thinking. She thought, "Where have I seen that man before?" Without the hat, I could recognize him. Then she realized, "It's Mir Lunaria." He was 1 year ahead of me at the academy, and famous for being at the bottom of his class. He scored zeros on all his exams, and flunked all his classes because he forgot to turn in his papers on time. In contrast to his fashionable peers, he always wore a crude leather jacket. He covered himself from head to toe even in the hottest summer days. His uniform was always too loose, and his straw hat was tattered and frayed. Although he was a noble, he loved tending the garden. He said he had a green thumb or something like that. Having said that, "Is this really the notorious Mir Lunaria?" she asked nervously. She said, Did you hire me?" He replied calmly. He said, "That's right. Have a seat. I heard you were in dire need of funds." She answered awkwardly, "Oh, news travels fast." As he read her documents, he said, "You majored in government administration. You were a plural major as well. You also studied business, trade, and real estate, correct?" She replied, "I did." He addressed her. "Lady Poin." "Yes?" she asked. "What exactly do you know about me?" His voice was meek and lacked confidence. She replied, "I don't know much about you, my lord." He interrupted, "I'm sure you know enough. Look, I have too much money on my hands." She thought, "It's a good thing that you're loaded, well." She asked, "You're also a count, aren't you?" He replied, "That is true. Let's cut to the chase. I need someone competent by my side, Lady Poin. As you know, I'm not very clever." She asked again, "What exactly would you have me do?" He replied, I'd like you to manage my family assets, Lady Poyne, she said. Does that mean? She thought. Does he need a personal assistant? Good, I can totally do that. Suddenly he said. As my wife. She cried out in shock. She said. Excuse me? She thought. Although he's a count, mere Lunaria is considered terrible husband material. I'm sure being the Countess of Lunaria would be better than being sold to a harem. But I do hate dummies. I can't possibly marry the Count. Seeing her confusion, he added. He said. Of course, it would be a marriage in contract only. She sighed. Oh, I see. But wouldn't you need a real wife at some point, my lord? Why would you want a fake marriage? I know you're at the age to settle down and start a family. And I'm sure you have plans to have children. He replied. I don't intend to have children, for personal reasons. She answered. I see. He continued. Lady Poyne. I hope you're not thinking what I think you're thinking. She interrupted. Then what about your successor? He replied. I plan to bequeath my assets to the child of the first prince. She thought. That makes sense. The first prince is his cousin. And the deceased queen was from the Lunaria family. He said. What I need right now isn't a wife, but a business partner. And I think you're perfect for the role, Lady Poyne. What would be the duration of the marriage? 4 years. That should be more than enough. She asked. What would be my monthly wages? He replied. 10 million lin. She was stunned. She thought. Did he say 10 million lin? That's roughly 3 times the salary of the average public worker. And I would also be given room and board. He added. Should you manage to fulfill your contract, I'll add another 500 million lin as your severance package. She thought. I can't let the money get to my head. Seeing her confusion, he said. I'm not asking you to answer right this minute. You can think it over and let me know when you come to a decision. She replied. Oh, of course. As they left the room, he said. By the way, the Lunaria estate is famous for its roses. She said absent-mindedly. Pardon? He continued. They start blooming at the end of spring and flourish at the beginning of summer. I hope we get to enjoy the roses together. Later, in the garden, she exclaimed. She said. My lord! The roses! I'd love to watch them bloom with you. He replied warmly. He said. I look forward to it, my lady. The meeting began in the reception room of the Lunaria estate. He said. Let's begin with the monetary compensation part of the contract. Your monthly wages will be 10 million lin. You will receive 120 million lin in advance, and a severance package of 500 million lin. If there is any breach of contract, the payment will be tripled. She listened quietly as he continued. He added. Now let's move on to the details. She hesitated, then asked softly. So, does that mean we must perform our duties as a married couple? He nodded and replied. I want us to look like a loving couple. That includes having meals together. And there must be no lovers on either side. I don't want cheating to damage the reputation of our families. She paused before asking. Do you have a lover by any chance? He answered calmly. No, I don't. She sighed in relief. He continued. Then make sure to include one more thing in the contract. We will watch the roses bloom together. Surprised, she asked. You want to include that in the official contract? He smiled slightly and said, Of course. We promise to watch them bloom together. I am a man of my word. After a short silence, he added, When the roses start blooming, I'd like to have afternoon tea in the garden twice a week. She stared at him in disbelief. What? You must be joking. But when she saw his serious expression, she apologized. I'm sorry. I thought you were joking. He chuckled and replied, I didn't know you had such humor, my lady. But twice a week seems a little too much. She thought for a moment and said, Fine. Then we'll only have tea twice a week when the flowers are in full bloom. He nodded. You may plan your dream wedding, my lady. She shook her head and replied, If that's the case, let's skip the ceremony. I don't want to waste money. He looked at her and said, If that's truly what you want, then so be it. But if people ask why we skip the ceremony, what should we say? She answered, Please tell them that I cut ties with my family and didn't want a proper ceremony. He raised an eyebrow and said teasingly, No, let's say we skipped it because the groom had no one to invite to the wedding. She gasped. What? How can that be? He simply replied, I'll be going now. It's time to tend to the garden. As he left, she muttered to herself, That was rather childish. We weren't competing over who had fewer acquaintances. Later that night, he returned and spoke quietly. My lady, since we decided to skip the formalities, that makes tonight our first night as a married couple. Her heart skipped a beat. She quickly said, I'll sleep on the sofa. He shook his head. No husband in his right mind would let his wife sleep on the sofa. You're quite tall, my lord. It will be uncomfortable for you. He hesitated and said, Then, what should we do? She blushed and thought to herself, I can't believe I had such naughty thoughts about him. He already told me he cannot have children. That must mean he cannot perform his duties as a husband. Then she spoke aloud. This bed is big enough for the two of us. Let's sleep on opposite sides tonight. From tomorrow onward, we'll use a curtain to divide the bed in half. He looked surprised and smiled. Oh, I didn't think of that. You're very clever, my lady. She replied softly. I'm not that clever. He then said seriously, I don't want to be buried in debt. That's why I need someone like you, Lady Poin. I hope we can enjoy watching the roses bloom together. Count Lunaria asked for my help rather than take advantage of my situation. He must really need me. You don't have to be so kind to me, my lord. You're my boss after all. All right. How much in debts? 3 billion lin, my lord. Narration continued. Her family was quite something. They tried to put the blame on Lady Poin. Blame? Yes, as if it's her fault. How dare she do this to us? We're her family. She dares to try to take us to court? That ungrateful brat. He said calmly. How was that? I'm no actor like you, but that was pretty good, wasn't it? Karin. Yes, sir. He started to tap his fingers again. Is he plotting to do something terrible to the family? But having said that, they're still Lady Poin's family. I thought of punishing them. But that doesn't mean I'll actually do it. Sure. Take care of them, like you always do. Understood, sir. I do have a question, however. Get out. Are you sure about this fake marriage? It's an important time for us. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt. We just finished, my lady. Is it already time for dinner? Shall we head over to the dining hall? Karen, get lost. Yes, sir. Are you all right? It happens all the time. Now shall we go have dinner? It's just a salad, but the dressing is so tart and refreshing. The chef must have a secret recipe. And it's not just the salad. Every dish seems to be carefully prepared. It tastes so much better than the food I had at the Halogen estate. Not to mention the academy. She looked up and said softly. She said, My lord, she noticed something and spoke gently. She said, My lord? He replied. What is it? She leaned closer and said, Hold on, you got soup on your lip. He smiled and answered, Thank you. But inside she panicked. She thought, Did he really have to lick it like that? Trying to stay calm, he said casually, I'd be more than happy to do this again in the future. Maybe. She stared at him in disbelief and thought, Count Lunaria is more of a rake than I thought. She shook her head to herself and muttered, What a mess. How did he even manage to get into the academy? He's going to need more lessons in grammar and mathematics. Then her thoughts shifted. She whispered to herself, I'm finally free from my so-called family. Later, he introduced someone new. He said, My lady, she will be your personal maid from now on. The girl bowed politely and said, Rennie Sonar at your service. Please call me Rennie, my lady. She looked at the young maid in surprise and thought, She looks so young. Is she old enough to work? Rennie smiled brightly and said, Let's go to the greenhouse, my lady. You've been poring over books for the last few days. Some fresh air will do you good. She nodded. Let's do that. As they walked together, she remembered the contract. She thought, The contract does say that we need to look like a loved-up couple. He really wants us to play the part, I guess. She stopped and pointed at the flowers. She asked, Those wildflowers, did you plant them? He replied, No, but I kept them in the garden because they're rather pretty. So I guess you could say they're part of my garden. She said softly. No other noble would do something like this. Most nobles would scold their gardener for having wildflowers in the garden. Some would even send their gardener away. He looked at the flowers and asked, Do you know the name of this flower? She answered, It's called a sunset flower. It blooms when the sun starts to set and closes up at sunrise. He smiled. How strange, right? She nodded and said, It's still winter, but would you like to see the vegetable garden? He replied, Sure, why not? She spoke excitedly. I had no idea you were interested in plants. We even have vegetables that bear fruit in cold weather. He listened quietly and said, I see. After a short pause, he spoke seriously. He said, My lady? Yes? She replied. I'll be going to the royal palace tomorrow to meet the crown prince. I'll be staying the night there, so please take care of the estate while I'm gone. She bowed slightly and said, I will. Travel safely, my lord. He looked at her and said softly, Lady Poyne, thank you for agreeing to be my wife. Surprised, she asked. Where did that come from? He answered honestly. Well, I've been thinking about it for the past month, she replied quietly. I see. Later, while studying, she muttered, these calculations are all wrong, but somehow the added amount is correct. How very lucky of him. Then she paused and thought. Wait, if he were really lucky, he wouldn't have failed his exams at the academy. She looked out the window and whispered, sunset flowers. A gentle voice called out to her. He said, I hope the flowers cheer you up while you're working, my lady. She looked at the blooms and thought, these flowers bloom at night when no one is looking. What's the point? No one gets to appreciate their beauty. Then her thoughts softened. She realized, but there must be people like Count Lunaria who can appreciate the beauty of this flower. She closed her eyes and whispered his name. Sisha. And with quiet determination she said to herself, I'll make sure this isn't our final goodbye. She stood quietly and thought to herself. She said softly, this will be the first time we're apart since our marriage. He makes it sound like we're a real couple. He looked at her and said gently, I'm going to miss you, my lady. She replied, you'll only be gone for a day. I'll come home as fast as I can, he said. There's no need to rush. Be safe, she answered. I will, he promised. Then she whispered to herself, yes, it's part of our marital duties. That's all. Time passed, and uneasiness filled her heart. She thought, I thought he would be back in time to tend to his garden. I wonder if something happened? Suddenly, a voice called out in panic. Rennie shouted, my lady! She turned quickly. Rennie, what's wrong? Rennie cried out in fear. My lady, our lord. With trembling lips, she continued, he was found dead, my lady. We believe bandits were behind this. Her mind froze. She remembered his words. She recalled, when the roses start blooming, I'd like to have afternoon tea in the garden, twice a week. The roses bloomed at the end of spring and flourished at the beginning of summer. It was exactly as he had described. Years passed. She said quietly, it's been 3 years since Mir's death. And in 8 months, the marriage contract will be over. I've gotten used to watching the roses alone. Far across the ocean lay another land. Narration. The kingdom of Chai, across the sea. Pahun, the port city of the Chai kingdom. A servant rushed in. She said, Ma'am. What is it? She asked. A delegation from Aliayar is here to see you. She looked at the crest and whispered, that's the symbol of the royal knightage. A knight stepped forward and declared, he said, Countess Lunaria, the next emperor of Aliayar awaits your return. Shocked, she asked, did you just say, the new emperor? The knight explained, there has been a coup d'état. A coup d'état? She repeated in disbelief. The crown prince and the third prince started a rebellion. His Majesty passed away amidst the chaos. The first prince defeated his brothers and executed those who took part in the coup. He lowered his voice. For participating in the rebellion, the empress and the princess are imprisoned. She whispered, I didn't think the crown prince and the third prince would start a rebellion. I knew they were unhappy, but I thought it was only about tax issues. She turned sharply and commanded, Rennie, pack our bags. We're leaving. A solemn voice echoed. Narration. May the protection of our God be with His Royal Majesty. The crowd repeated. May the protection of our God be with His Royal Majesty. Again and again. Be with His Royal Majesty. She thought to herself. She said inwardly. Our God protected Ali Ayar from our foes. But my life was already in danger before the coup d'état. She clenched her fists. The same goes for my mother, Kanasia Lunaria. And her family, the Count of Lunaria. Her voice trembled as memories returned. Right before my mother passed away, the former Count and Countess of Lunaria were murdered by the ex-Empress. She made it look like a carriage accident. Her breathing grew heavy. Not only that, the life of Count Mir Lunaria was also in danger. She realized the truth. For feigning his death to avoid assassination attempts. And for supporting me in secret. Her eyes widened. She whispered. Feigning death, that can only mean one thing. A powerful voice echoed in her mind. Narration. I pronounce Count Lunaria as the new Duke of Alanair. Tears filled her eyes. She said softly. All this time, Mir has been alive. People whispered, voices low and disbelieving. Is that really Count Lunaria? Another gasped. Didn't they hold his funeral 3 years ago? Lower your voice. Someone murmured, eyes wide with confusion. Am I dreaming? I can't believe Count Lunaria is alive. We held a funeral for him. One voice trembled with emotion. Did our God bestow this vivid dream upon me, to console me for my loss? Nearby, suspicion boiled under the surface. Who the hell is he? Someone muttered. He's been smiling at Sisha nonstop. I don't like him one bit. 2 years ago. Kingdom of Chai. She had fallen. Her belongings scattered. He stepped forward, concern in his voice. Are you all right? Relief softened his expression. I'm glad we found you on time. He gestured behind him. My servants will retrieve what was stolen from you. He lowered his voice as if sharing a warning. You must always be careful when you're at the port. The pickpockets target the wallets of the outsiders. Sisha nodded lightly. I see. That was close. Thank you. He smiled, humble. I did what every other person would have done. Then his eyes lit up. Anyways, what brings you to the Kingdom of Chai? He paused. I had no idea you'd come to see me. What a coincidence. His voice lowered playfully. Why, it must be destiny. He leaned in, speaking with curiosity. I've heard about the roses of the Lunaria estate. And the rose candies you created sell like hotcakes in Chai. Then, more carefully. Are you here to discuss business today? Sisha answered firmly. Yes. We need to bring in more tourists to the Lunaria fiefdom. And I'd like the cooperation of the merchant group of Chai. He nodded. All right. Well then. He gestured with a smile. Why don't we go look at the popular tourist spots in Chai? Later, behind closed doors, a man entered quietly. I brought the information you requested, he said. A heavy pause. Count Lunaria went missing recently. And it's rumored that he ran into bandits. Royness ran to her side, alarmed. Sisha. Are you all right, Sisha? Sisha glanced away. Don't worry. It's nothing. But he didn't believe her. You've been overstretching yourself lately. You personally went to wipe out the bandits yourself, didn't you? She remained firm. I said I'm fine. He exhaled, frustration building. Do you know what the noble ladies call you, Sisha? His voice dropped. They call you a worker ant. Since that's all you do. Gentler now, he added. Sisha, being healthy is a part of your job. His voice softened into something more personal. I wish you weren't working all the time. I want you to be happy, Sisha. As she prepared to leave, he spoke again. Safe travels, Sisha. Get some rest on your way back. She offered the usual reply. I will. He shook his head slightly. That's what you always say. Turning to the maid beside them, Royness said. Rennie, make sure Sisha gets some rest. Rennie grinned. You can count on me. Royness watched her go, then reached into his jacket. He pulled out a small item and quietly whispered. Oh, Royness, I hope this will make you think of me. Suddenly, a voice called out. Sisha. She turned. Sisha. Mir Lunaria approached, smiling. We're supposed to go have tea, he said warmly. Let's go. We just received a stash of top-notch tea leaves. From where he stood, Royness could no longer hold back his thoughts. He whispered bitterly. You spent a mere month with him, Sisha. But I was by your side for 2 years. His voice cracked. Please, choose me, Sisha. She looked at him with trembling eyes and cried out. She said, Please, choose me, Sisha. Her heart pounded as she continued. I only spent 1 month with my husband. But I stayed by your side for 2 whole years. I know I still have a chance. That single month gave me the motivation to live my life to the fullest. He lowered his head and said quietly, My lady, I'm sorry. Let's have tea next time. She replied softly. Sure. Until next time. Send word to Hotel Daisy if you want to meet up. After a pause, she said, Why don't we go home? We can talk there. Yes, my lady, he answered. Suddenly, a voice shouted. A guard yelled. My lord, let me go if you wish to live. Yes, sir, came the frightened reply. We'll talk later. Yes, sir. She turned to him with shaking hands. She asked, My lord, what really happened? Her voice cracked as she continued. You said you would treat me with respect as if I were your real wife. You should have let me know that you were alive. Tears filled her eyes. I know our marriage was a contract. But you have no idea how much I struggled after your death. She clenched her fists. Was I the only one who was serious about this relationship? She stepped closer and said firmly, If you have anything to say to me, look me in the eyes and say it. Her anger finally burst out. You're a bad person, my lord. You say one thing, but act differently. You're a terribly irresponsible person. Her voice trembled with pain. You brought me into a fake marriage and then left me to fend for myself. He lowered his head and said, My apologies. I couldn't tell you that I was alive, even though I wanted to. He took a breath and confessed. I wanted everything, my revenge and Sisha. During the month we spent together, I wanted to leave an impact on you. His voice grew heavy. If I died on my quest for revenge, I wanted to live on in your memories. I wanted you to always remember my name. He looked at her and said, Yes, I wanted you to remember Mir Lunaria. A servant spoke softly. The servant said, Our Lady could barely hold herself together during your funeral, my lord. But I didn't think you would be devastated over my death. Over someone like me. He bowed deeply. I offer you my sincerest apologies, my lady. But in order to avenge my family, I had no other choice. And I didn't want to put you in danger. His voice shook. I'm sorry for making you suffer. There will be a day when I can tell you what really happened. She wiped her tears and said quietly, I didn't suffer. I was just emotionally drained. He answered, My apologies. I'm really, truly sorry. She whispered, My lord. He stepped closer and pleaded, So please, forgive me. Please, don't leave me. He spoke with a quiet, trembling voice. I don't think I can do without you, my lady. She turned to him, startled at his sincerity. My lord, or shall I say, your grace? A small smile tugged at her lips. You're not very clever, are you? He nodded with a soft hum. That's right. Then, with sudden vulnerability, he said, So please, don't ever leave me. She looked down. I can't leave even if I wanted to, your grace. He blinked, surprised. Pardon? She exhaled gently. If I ask for a divorce before our contract is over, I have to pay a penalty. She looked up at him calmly. It's written in our contract. He hesitated for a moment before saying, I know you're more than capable of getting a better job elsewhere, my lady. She shook her head. But no job will be worth the penalties I'd have to pay for breaking our contract. He let out a breath. Oh, I see. She smiled faintly. That clause seems to be my saving grace. But she narrowed her eyes and said seriously, Now's not the time to smile in relief, your grace. I know. Then her expression softened. From now on, you must tell me where you're going in advance. And please let me know if you feel that you're in danger. A beat passed. Then she added quietly, I'm your wife, if in contract only. I believe I have the right to know your whereabouts. He stood straighter and said earnestly, You have my word, my lady. Her voice sharpened slightly. You must treat me as if I were your real wife. I expect you to behave responsibly. Am I clear? He paused. Please go back to your seat, your grace. Do I have your permission? You can't kneel in front of me forever. But he smiled gently. I'll stay on my knees until you feel better, my lady. She frowned, worried. Please take a seat. The servants will be shocked if they see you on your knees. He blinked, as if realizing it for the first time. Oh, that's right. I didn't think about that. She glanced away. I didn't mean to imply that you weren't clever, my lord. He smiled warmly. It's all right. I'd rather you be honest with me, my lady. She looked at him, surprised by his reply. What? You agreed to be my wife because you knew I was lacking, Sisha. And then, more softly, and I'm so glad you did. She looked away, brushing back a strand of hair. You're really something, your grace. He smiled, eyes shining. I'm so glad to see you smiling again, my lady. There was a lightness in his voice. Your smile makes me happy. You have the most wonderful smile. She blinked. Pardon? You remind me of a yellow rose in full bloom. Her face flushed. That's ridiculous. Stop talking such nonsense. He chuckled, but then she asked, Anyhow, where were you all this time? He looked away. I was constantly on the move. She nodded slowly. I see. I'm glad that you were able to survive. He smiled quietly. Yes. I'm happy to be back alive too. He hesitated, then asked. My lady, would it be all right if I asked you a question? Of course. What is it? Who was the foreigner by your side? She answered plainly. A friend. He manages a merchant group in the Chai Kingdom. He looked thoughtful. I see. You two must be close. She crossed her arms. Well, we're not that close. Then she explained further. He's the head of the first merchant group I traded with in Chai. He frowned slightly. He was referring to you by your given name, and you two were talking quite informally. She waved a hand. That's because we're the same age. His tone shifted. He also held you by your shoulder. She answered calmly. He was merely trying to help me gather my thoughts. I see. He changed the topic. Our home in the capital has gained a flourishing rose garden. She raised an eyebrow. The roses will also be in full bloom at the estate. Then he looked at her. What's the matter? Her voice was barely above a whisper. My lady? She turned to him slowly. Your Grace? His expression melted. I really missed you. Suddenly, he choked for breath. I can't breathe. He pulled her into a hug. Did you miss me too? He leaned in slightly, almost whispering. I think I would be able to perform my nightly duties now, my lady. She froze. Nightly duties? Her mind spiraled. How could he say that, with such a straight face? Her voice trembled. I miss you too. She looked away, eyes burning. You suddenly disappeared without a trace. He moved closer. Ow. She blinked. What's with him? Then came the soft, heavy question. How much? She hesitated, startled. How much did I miss you? He nodded, waiting. Her voice was quiet. So very much. But then she paused. I'm not sure. How much? He asked again, more gently this time. I said I'm not sure. Don't be cruel. She sighed, defeated. Fine, a lot. He looked up. A lot? Yes. His eyes softened. So you did miss me a lot? She nodded slowly. So when you appeared out of nowhere, I was upset. My apologies. Suddenly, voices echoed from the courtyard. Our lord is back home. What? Are you sleepwalking, sir? A servant ran up excitedly. Everyone! Our lord has been given a dukedom. She turned stunned. What did you say? Rennie whispered beside her, amused. Sometimes dreams are so real that you think it really happened. Yes, and the line between dreams and reality becomes blurred. Poor you. I'm serious. Go see for yourself. Our lord has returned, as a duke. Betting erupted in the background. I'll bet 100 silver she's dreaming. 1,000! Make it 500. Then came the shriek. Ah! My lord! I mean, your grace! He flinched. Enough. You all are hurting my ears. He repeated, tone firmer. Enough. You all are hurting my ears. She stepped forward, commanding attention. Silence a bit. But as you can see, His Grace needs his rest. So please go back to your duties. They bowed quickly. Of course, my lady. Someone urged gently. Go straight to the bedchamber, Your Grace. Bedchamber? Yes. Go lie down. I'm fine. She gave him a knowing look. You're probably more tired than you think. Get some rest. Her eyes scanned him up and down. His lack of fashion sense hasn't changed. He turned to her one last time. Your Grace. I'll get back to work now. Please get some rest. But something was off. She looked at him. What's wrong, Your Grace? Is there much work to be done? Yes. He hesitated, then looked hopeful. Can't you work here? I'll bring the documents. She paused. Wait a moment. Of course. Is it urgent? He nodded. The faster I finish, the better. That means you don't have to do it right this minute, correct? I suppose so. Why do you ask? She smiled faintly. Oh, I just wanted to catch up with you, my lady. His voice dropped. I was told how you were doing. But I wanted to hear it directly from you. Would that be possible? She nodded softly. Fine, my lord. A long silence passed. Did you wipe out the bandits because of me? Her voice was quiet, almost afraid. I thought they took your life. I couldn't let them get away with it. Was it revenge? Well, that's what I thought back then. He bowed his head. I'm sorry for making you suffer, my lady. She looked at him calmly. I did what anyone would have done. The bandits were getting out of hand, she added. He stared at the floor. Was it a part of her duties? His thoughts spiraled. Handling my affairs. Wiping out the bandits. My absence kept you busy. I'm sorry. She met his eyes. I know you had no choice. That your life was in danger. However, it was a part of my job. Nonetheless. But it's fine. I had a lot of help. He blinked. You said that you had a lot of help. It means you had quite a workload. He looked pained. I'm really sorry. She watched him carefully. Your Grace, are you crying? He looked away. An eyelash must have gotten in my eye. I see. Would you like some help? It's fine. There's a way to get it out. He gently tapped the edge of his eye. There. It's out. He glanced up at her. Your Grace. She tilted her head. Isn't it difficult to see with such long bangs? He shook his head. Not really. She hesitated, then finally asked. I've been meaning to ask. Why do you grow your bangs like that? He brushed his bangs away and said simply. It's my style. She paused. Your style? A moment of silence passed between them. Style. She stared at him. Does he really think that's stylish? She folded her arms and sighed. I guess you don't like it. She cleared her throat quickly, regaining composure. I respect your preferences, Your Grace. He smiled faintly. And what are your preferences, my lady? She blinked. My preferences? Yes, he said gently. Do you prefer long locks on men, for example? She flustered slightly. I don't know. I didn't think much about it. He watched her with interest. Well then, What do you find attractive in men? She hesitated. Well, I'm not sure. She looked away, then added honestly. But I do know what I don't find attractive. He tilted his head. I think it's important to find what looks good on you. I see, he murmured. Then his tone shifted. Tell me more about what happened while I was gone, my lady. She nodded. Of course, Your Grace. First off, the status of your lands. But she stopped mid-sentence, frowning. Your Grace, your hair is still wet. He reached up absently. Oh, is it still wet? She turned her head, struggling to maintain her focus. I can't ask him to strip so I can dry his hair. She cleared her throat. Have a seat. He raised an eyebrow. You should dry your hair first, my lady. Mine is almost dry. He gestured calmly. Make haste. I'm really fine, she muttered, grabbing a towel. That tickles. He looked up. What is it, my lady? It's nothing. Her eyes lingered on him. Why would he cover a face like that with long bangs? Such terrible taste and style. Why would he hide those heavenly features? Her chest tightened. I feel like I'm tainting his innocence with my blood-stained hands. He raised his eyes softly toward her. What's on your mind, my lady? Then, he took the towel from her hands. Allow me to dry your locks. She stepped back in alarm. That won't do. I don't want your hands to get wet. He blinked. What? Oh, well. She trailed off awkwardly. I can dry my own hair. Please get some rest. But he stood his ground. No, I insist. She looked up at him, both amused and exasperated. You have no idea how to dry a woman's hair, Your Grace. He gave a small laugh. I'm sure I can manage to dry yours, my lady. He stepped closer. How's that? She froze. She could smell the faint scent around her, the one he'd noticed too. You smell lovely, my lady. His voice softened. Is this the scent of roses? She didn't speak. You know I have a thing for roses. She quickly turned away. Good night, Your Grace. He straightened. Yes, my lady. But then, she found something that made her stop in her tracks. Her eyes narrowed. What is this doing here? She stared down at the object in her hands. What is this doing here? She brushed her fingers over it gently. This is the curtain we used at the estate. He stepped forward, brow furrowed. I wonder how this got here. Yes, she said softly, still examining it. It's quite strange indeed. Clack. The door closed. She turned to him and bowed slightly. Good night, Your Grace. He gave a slight nod. Good night, my lady. Later that night, she noticed him shift in bed. What is it, Your Grace? He turned his head. It's nothing. A faint smile played at his lips. She still falls asleep the minute her head hits the pillow. His mind echoed her words. You're a bad person, my lord. You brought me into a fake marriage, then left me to fend for myself. He clenched his jaw. I promise to never leave your side, Sisha. This I swear. The next day. Follow me, he ordered quietly. They stepped into a quiet part of the estate. This is where Sisha sat, he said, looking around. He moved toward a small table by the window. She changed the flower pot. But then he noticed something odd. There's no way these are the flowers I gifted her 3 years ago. He sighed, glancing out the window. This isn't our family estate, but our home in the capital. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the manor. He narrowed his eyes at the maid. Rennie, I trusted you to do your job. Cold silence fell over the room. So why didn't I receive a report on the jerk in your monthly update? Why did you allow him to stay by Sisha's side? What jerk? Rennie muttered innocently. I'm referring to the foreigner. He leaned closer, irritated. The jerk with the long black hair, to be precise. His eyes darkened. Why was he there at the coronation? Rennie hesitated before answering. Our mistress befriended him when she went to Chai. I suppose friends refer to each other by their first names. His voice lowered dangerously. However, he put his hand on the shoulder of a married woman and asked her to choose him over her husband. He stepped in. Why did you not tell me about him in your reports? Well, the thing is, Master, Rennie trailed off. He bought me rice cakes. He raised an eyebrow. Master, I'm sure you've never had spicy rice cakes. She lit up a little. So rice cakes are made from a grain called rice, and you put them on a skewer. Then you brush a sweet and savory sauce over them. It's a Chai delicacy. She sighed dreamily. Once you've had it, you can never go back. He crossed his arms slowly. You failed to report to me because he fed you rice cakes? She looked down sheepishly. He's a good man. He stared at her coldly. So he bought you delicious food. That doesn't make him a good person. His voice dropped lower now. You went against my orders. Is it because you consider me a terrible person? Rennie's eyes widened. Master, if you put it that way. She looked panicked. It's hard for me to disagree. He glared. Tell me about this fool. And his relationship with Sisha. She stood straighter, beginning her briefing. Name, Xiao Chungyun. 22 years of age. He's the third born of Marquis Yun of Chai. Formerly goes by Royness Xiao. She added thoughtfully. He and Sisha are the same age. He currently leads the Forgotten Moon Merchant Group. It's the first merchant group our mistress worked with in Chai. She tilted her head. Unlike you, he has a bright, outgoing personality. He's charismatic, a people magnet. He narrowed his eyes. Are you saying I'm dark and gloomy? Rennie smiled nervously. Well, it's the truth, isn't it? Moving on, he snapped. Of course, she chirped. He's single, and considered the biggest catch within the Chai Empire. She looked thoughtful again. He's different in every aspect from you, Master. You were once considered the worst husband material in Aliyah. She waved her hands frantically. Oh, of course, we all know that this is merely a ruse, and part of your act. She patted her chest dramatically. It's a shame, really. If people knew the truth, they would have considered you quite the catch. He gave her a look. Enough with the nonsense. Of course, she mumbled. But this isn't nonsense, Your Grace. You'll never win over Lady Poyne by pretending to be a dimwit. He looked away sharply at the mention of that name. I know that Royness is infatuated with Lady Poyne. He professed his love the last time she visited Chai. Rennie's arms flew up, mimicking drama. It happened when she was leaving for Aliyah. He pressed his lips on her, like this. Everything stopped. He whispered coldly. He placed his lips on her? She hesitated. It was merely on the cheek. She took a deep breath. But nonetheless, I believe Our Lady views him only as a friend. She thought back. She didn't meet him during her latest visit to Chai. He remained quiet, but the tension in his expression said it all. Well, she continued cautiously. From what I've seen and heard, this Royness Shao seems quite taken with Sisha. She met his eyes with a look of warning. The situation is now out of your control. He spoke slowly. If you defy my orders one more time. He leaned forward. I'll make sure you never get to eat rice cakes again. Her eyes widened in horror. Why, yes, master. She bowed profusely. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. You can leave now, he said curtly. Yes, master. She turned, muttering under her breath. There goes my chance to lead a normal life. Ugh. She stirred. What? Her eyes widened as she realized someone was lying much closer than expected. How did he come over to my side? She blinked in disbelief. Does he have bad sleeping habits? Her eyes scanned the space between them. But he's never crossed the line before. Her gaze settled on him, peaceful, the early morning light soft on his face. He looked so angelic. But reality returned quickly. It's time for my training. She moved to get up. Ugh. Her fingers reached up. My hair is getting in the way. A voice called out behind her. Your Grace? She turned startled. I heard that you train in the mornings. I wanted to come watch you. She gave a small nod. Is that so? He stepped forward lightly. What is it, my lady? She opened her mouth to reply, but... Lady. Her vision blurred. I feel dizzy. He stepped to her side in alarm. Excuse me? Then his expression darkened with concern. My lady, you have a fever. She blinked slowly. That makes sense. He placed a hand on her shoulder gently. I think that's enough training for today. Let me call the physician. All right. Moments later, the physician gave his report. Our Lady has come down with a cold. A cold? He repeated, concerned. The physician nodded seriously. Yes. Her body simply gave out due to exhaustion. It's surprising how she managed to stay on her feet until now. He turned to him. I recommend that she get enough rest. Make sure she stays warm and drinks plenty of fluids. I'll prepare her medicine. He looked straight at her, voice firm. Did you hear that, my lady? You need to rest until you're fully recovered. She turned her head away weakly. I know I've been working nonstop up until now, but there's so much work to be done. He shook his head gently. You're a patient now. And you need your rest. But there are urgent matters that need to be taken care of. I'll ask the managers of the merchant group to take care of it. She mumbled faintly. Our merchant group has no managers. He blinked. Are you saying you've been doing everything on your own? Her voice was soft but firm. Yes, because I'm capable enough to manage on my own. He didn't hide his concern. You do have an assistant, right? I do. Well then, he said with gentle finality. I'll have them take care of pressing matters. She lay back, but he leaned over her suddenly. Your Grace? His voice dropped. Let me keep you warm. She tried to protest. I'm fine with the blanket. He was already tucking it higher over her shoulders. No, it's not enough. You're going to have breakfast, take your medicine, and get some sleep. All right. But despite her body's exhaustion, her mind remained restless. Why do I feel so restless? This is all temporary. Mir's death echoed in her chest. It was a brutal wake-up call. She swallowed harshly. I realized he had been my safe haven. Even if their relationship was just a contract, built on lies, I still felt safe within that so-called relationship. I had never felt so safe and secure, even among my real family. Her eyes stung. But this is a fake relationship. Not real. We'll become strangers when our contract ends. Her heart ached with quiet, unspoken longing. That's why I want you to be terrible at managing the estate. Because that's what you hired me to do. It's the only reason I'm here. It's the only thing I'm good at. She looked toward the door he exited through. You fool! She shifted slightly beneath the sheets, blinking up at the ceiling. What time is it? A voice spoke gently from beside her. Are you awake? She turned her head. He was sitting nearby, watching quietly. Your temperature has gone down, he said, reaching for the thermometer. But you're still running a fever. There was a pause. Were you dreaming, my lady? She blinked. Why are you asking? You called someone a fool in your sleep, he said softly. So I was wondering if you were dreaming about me. She sat up, flustered. Was that actually reality? I don't know why I said that. Please don't mind me. He gave a quiet chuckle. So you did call me a fool? She gasped. My apologies. I didn't mean to acknowledge it like that. He smiled warmly. No worries. A soft silence fell between them. Then he glanced at a table across the room. Anyways, what documents were you poring over in the middle of the night? She tilted her head. Now that I'm back, I need to know the status of my estate, he explained. So I've been reviewing all the documents. You should rest when it becomes dark, Your Grace, she said gently. Your eyes will get tired. He turned to her, serious. And it is my job to take care of the estate. I'd like you to do the same, my lady. He looked at her with concern. Your entire body is screaming for rest. His voice softened. And I don't want to see you faint again. So please get some more rest, my lady. She looked down. I will. I'll do my best. My fever has gone down a bit. He suddenly stepped closer and startled her. Why, Your Grace? She stammered. You frightened me. You were checking your temperature unclothed, she whispered, cheeks flushed. He rubbed the back of his neck casual. So I didn't want to bother you. She blinked up at him. How high is your fever? He answered, almost shy. 37.1 degrees Celsius. I see. She exhaled, trying to rise. I think I can start working again from today. He crossed his arms firmly. Really? Who says you're ready to get back to work? She motioned weakly. My body. I'm fine with it. Wait a minute, Your Grace, she cried, sitting up straighter. I want you to rest until you're fully recovered. Fine. He watched her for a long moment before turning away. But his thoughts ran wild. How can I have such lascivious thoughts when she's ill? I need to get my mind out of the gutter. He cleared his throat. I'll tell the servants to bring you a tray. She answered softly. All right. A sigh. I'm getting tired of staying in the bedroom all day. He looked out at the window. An idea formed. Would you like to get some fresh air in the garden? He gestured toward the garden nearby. We'd like some privacy, You may follow us from a distance. She stepped onto the garden path, only to feel his hand gently place a blanket around her. You didn't have to cover me with a blanket, she murmured. When the sweat cools, you may feel cold. All right. But when he brushed close to her, her eyes widened. His body feels hard. But how can he have muscles when he doesn't train? I must be imagining things. They stopped beneath a rose-covered archway. We're finally watching the roses together, he said quietly. She smiled faintly. We didn't get the chance to enjoy them properly. You're right, he said with a wistful breath. I didn't think this day would come. Then he turned toward her fully. My lady? Yes? She asked. His voice was low, unsure, but sincere. I'd like to kiss you. She blinked in surprise. I did promise to fulfill my duties as your husband. Her eyes widened. Excuse me? He looked away for a second, then back into her eyes. I know you're still ill, but we're finally back together. His expression softened. I feel like it's the perfect moment for us to kiss. She looked around at the blooming roses, their sweet aroma filling the air. It does feel romantic, with the scent of roses permeating the air. He added calmly. And the servants and knights, they're too far to see us. He took a breath. We're finally together again, after 3 years. He looked out at the blossoms. The couples I've met all seem to be lost in their romantic bubbles. Why don't we try to do the same? She flinched slightly. Where did you have in mind? His gaze lowered to her lips. What I'd really like is to kiss you on the lips. He stopped, gauging her reaction. But I'm not sure if you'll be comfortable with that. Another pause. Her heart pounded. He repeated, as if barely daring to ask. What I'd really like is to kiss you on the lips. But I'm not sure if you'll be comfortable with that. She held her breath. You must feel awkward, she whispered.